Okay, 10 seconds in. Hello and welcome to the final Spooktober Crafting event on Twitch this year. This is going to be the follow-up where I show you the things that we started on different streams and show you the finished products because they have been finished. The only things that aren't finished are the pumpkin that we made on the very first crafting stream. Doesn't have a stem yet, so we're going to make that tonight because real quick and easy. And I also have, I believe, 5 or 6 more drawings for the drawing challenge to do. So I'll go ahead and do those. We'll also do the stem for the pumpkin. But first, let's show off some of what we've already made. So, switching over. You know what, I'm going to keep it on the chatting tab for a few of these, and then I'll switch to the actual camera when we move to the drawings, okay? Because it's going to be easier for me to hold stuff up to the camera as opposed to having the camera shining down on it. A few things I can probably do that way, but let's get started with what we've got first. I am doing this a bit later than I normally do my Sunday streams, and the reason for that is I've had the door open for trick-or-treaters for the past couple hours. So, the very first thing that we worked on for streams this month was the pumpkin. See how I said that you then use the string wrapped around it to make the actual pumpkin shape? Let's see if I can get a slightly less... Nope. Okay, I'm going to swap over to the camera. There we go. We're seeing the colors a bit better there. Form this nice stripy pumpkin. You can see where the stem's going to go. This will actually be the stuffing for the stem. So, that's why I always keep that long tail at the end. And for the stem itself, we will be using some yarn that I have had. I do not actually know... I know it's Red Heart, I can say that. But I don't actually know the colorway. I don't know how much of it I had. It's from the 60s or the 70s and was given to me by someone whose mother had passed away. And they found themselves with all of this yarn, so they gave it to me because they know that I do yarn crafts, and I've been finding uses for it for a while. That particular skein actually was used almost entirely for a robe that I made for my skeletal cat, so it has a Grim Reaper robe. Okay, so that was the pumpkin. We'll be finishing that up tonight. Next, the following week, we did the Bone Fairy. So, how's that? Our little fairy in a jar with wings, and down on the ground in the jar we've got stones and fake moss and bones, and told you it would do this. Give me just a moment. Pop that light on. And now I'm going to turn off got that nice flickering light that makes it kind of eerie. Our little bone fairy. I think it turned out really well. Okay, it's too bright again. There we go. Week 3 on the stream, we worked on air dry clay. And I made, primarily, that you guys saw, jewelry for my kids' costumes for Decades Day at their school during Spirit Week, but I also made the gravestone and the grave. And if y'all remember those, I now have, there we go, completed. And I'm going to swap to the camera again so you guys can see what it looks like. Okay, so it's got the bits of skeleton reaching out of the grave. I painted the tombstone. I painted the base here. I then also glued it down onto another base and added green that looks kind of dirty, so it looks like cemetery ground. And then the grass you can see is creeping up onto the grave, and I glued down some fake grass and some rocks to give it a little bit more authentic feel. And of course, rest in peace. Alright, so I have not completed all of the drawings. I still have, I want to say, 5 to go. So we will be working on that tonight. But we're going to go ahead. I'll just chat. I'll talk to you guys. I do want to, give me a moment. We're going to swap something real quick. Actually, I don't want to do that just yet. So, the pumpkins that we carved on our final week of crafting. Tragedy struck. We carved those last Monday. Last either Wednesday or Thursday, I was out running errands, and I got contacted by my spouse through our instant message to tell me that the twins had just gotten home from school and had discovered that both of the pumpkins they had carved, which of course were the actual vegetation pumpkins, not the foam one that I'd made, but they discovered both of the pumpkins they had carved had rotted over 3 days. I was stunned, understandably. I've never had a pumpkin rot that fast. They, of course, were very upset because they were like, well, did we carve them too soon? No. When I was a kid, you could carve a pumpkin and it would still be a pumpkin 3 weeks later. So we were very confused. I did some additional running around, and I found 2 foam pumpkins, and we carved those, or they carved those. They actually found the foam easier to carve than the flesh pumpkins had been. So, yes, I know, it's still all the same info. So, I'm going to show you guys how the pumpkins turned out, the foam ones. The one that has just the X's and the mouth, that's the one that Hawk did. He tried very hard to emulate what he had done on the original pumpkin. The one that Fox did is the one that is sitting to just on the opposite side from his of my little teal kitty cat. And that is a demon face. He sketched out the idea, then he asked that I actually sketch it onto the pumpkin for him because he couldn't figure out how to do it without cutting pieces that would then leave the whole face hanging without any support. So I went ahead and sketched it in. I showed him, okay, this is where you cut, these are what you leave. And he went ahead and cut out a good portion of it. He had me cut the curved parts, so the eyes and the horns, but that was all his idea. I just helped with the execution. And then we put glow sticks inside them. Nope, that was the wrong direction. Glow sticks inside them, and this is how they turned out with the glowy faces, and then we put glow sticks in them again. We've got I think that tonight when we had them out on the porch for trick-or-treaters, we used a purple glow stick in my little kitty and a red glow stick in the demon face, and then Hawk's pumpkin had an actual yellow tea light in it instead. But I did want to show you guys those because obviously the twins were very impressed with their work, and I'm very impressed with their work. I really am. And because, these pumpkins, we can actually use them again next year. So, I think that what we'll probably end up doing is we will use these pumpkins again next year, but we'll also carve additional pumpkins and just kind of start a collection of pumpkins to go out on the porch each year, And each year we can add more and more. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and finish up the, let's see, sorry, I've got a website that has the actual pattern for the stem. It's the same pattern I was working from. There we go, stem. Yes, I know it says to use a slightly bigger hook, and we are going to. Oh, go figure. I've been missing some of my hooks. I found them today. They were tucked inside the skein that I was using for... Okay, so 5, single crochet 5, single crochet up to make it 7, and then single stitch around and bind off. Okay, that's easy enough. They were tucked inside that skein that I was using for the pumpkin itself. So that was a fun little discovery. It's like, oh, hey, there's all of those. Alright. So the pattern calls for me to do the traditional non-magic loop crochet to start it, and I just refuse to do that. It's a pain in the tail. I always just go with magic loop. So this has been a very interesting week. Next week is also going to be very busy. This week I finally got that blood work that I've been needing done, and I had it done Friday afternoon. They said they would have results Saturday, and they called me Saturday, but of course they called when I was asleep, and I missed the call, so I'm going to have to call them Monday and find out what they found from the blood work. Hopefully nothing bad. And then a friend of mine who was, her mother passed away recently. She's been really struggling because just before her mother passed, her mother revealed that a lot of the reason that she gets mistreated by the members of the family is because her mother had been lying about her to them for years because it let her mother look better. So she found that bombshell out, and then less than a week later, her mother passed away. Her mother knew that the end was coming, and I guess she wanted to, I won't say make her peace, because it certainly didn't make anything more peaceful for her daughter, but she wanted to perhaps clear her conscience before the final end. But that particular friend has been planning to move out when her mother passed away. She had given up her apartment so that she could move in with her mother and care for her mother, but her stepfather has just made her life miserable. The entire 20-ish years she has been staying to care for her mother. And so now that her mother's gone, she knows her stepfather has been looking to throw her out as soon as possible. And so she found an apartment. I went up there today to the new apartment. She got the keys on Friday. And I went up there today and walked through it with her to find anything for the form that was, okay, here, this was damaged when we got here, things like that. To make certain that she gets her deposit back and doesn't get blamed for anything that was already existing. So we got that taken care of. And then I took the boys to a trunk or treat on last Sunday. And then I took them to another one today because they wanted to go. And then they went out trick-or-treating with a friend of theirs. That friend's mother was kind enough to take them around to different places in town to get trick-or-treating done. though it turned out that my poor, one of my sons realized about halfway through the night of trick-or-treating that he just wasn't having fun. And thankfully the friend's mother was kind enough to bring him home and then continue on with her daughter and my other son so that they could, you know, get in some more candy grabbing. We didn't really have any trick-or-treaters here. Their friend, of course, grabbed some candy because I told her she could. And one of my sons, when he returned home, the one who had decided that trick-or-treating was still fun, when he returned home, he, of course, trick-or-treated so that he could get some more candy from us. I've got a big bag left over, though. So that'll be fun. The adults in the house always get first pick to go through and see, okay, what do I want out of this? And then it gets kind of handed over to the kids, though I've been prone to hiding the bag or the remains of the bag and like using it for a few months to give them little treats every now and then, instead of letting them do what they will happily do if allowed, which is eat it all at once and make themselves sick. You would think after they're 14, you'd think they would have learned by now that they do that every time. But, c'est la vie, they haven't. I had scissors. Where did I put... Oh, well, I got this. Give me a second. That's our little stem completed. I'm going to go ahead and get it sewn on, and then I will show you the finished product with it completely finished, you know. And then I'll swap over to the camera and I'll draw, we'll chat. I'm not quite sure about the plans for next month, just letting people know in advance. I fly out to California for my surgery, which I'm very excited about, but I fly out on the 17th, which is, I want to say a Wednesday, but it might be a Thursday. It has to be a Wednesday, because I've got an appointment on Thursday with the doctor. Okay, I fly out on the 17th. The person I am staying with is like, oh no, we have great internet, you can do all the live streams you want, but I'm not sure how they'll feel about strangers seeing the inside of their home. If you remember when I was house sitting for a friend, they were not cool with more than a very small portion of the wall being shown, so it is entirely up to the discretion of the person I'm staying with. I would not dare to go against their wishes, since they are being so hospitable by letting me stay with them. Yeah, 17th is a Wednesday, so I might not do my normal stream on the 18th for gaming, and I'm pretty sure I won't be doing the stream on the 25th, because I will be 3 days out from having had my surgery. I will probably still be on painkillers and not really very cogent, so the 18th and the 21st might still have their streams. The 28th might still have its stream. Again, it is going to be based on the wishes of the person I will be staying with, whether or not they want to let people that they don't know see their home. We'll just have to play it by ear. But I will be flying back on the 30th. After I fly back, I do intend to kind of buckle down on trying to find a job. I've got some very good prospects, I think. One is a job that I actually had been selected for a second interview. However, the previous job that I'd had contacted me back saying they want, well, their recruiting company, let me rephrase this. their recruiting company had contacted me back saying, oh yeah, we're going to rehire you, it'll be great. And then they went, oh, wait, you were a direct hire, not a contractor, weren't you? And I went, yeah, I was a full-time employee, I was not a contract hire. They were like, yeah, we can't rehire you as a contractor for a full year after you've worked as a contractor, as a direct employee. So they had called me to say I was hired just before I got a call from the other place, which is a mortgage lending company, saying they wanted me for a second interview, and they were very impressed with my resume, given I had already worked for a banking company. I knew the ins and outs of the banking industry, so it looked like it was a very definite, yes, we'll hire you, you just have to go through the interview process. But since I had been called by the other company and thought that I already had a job, I said, I'm so sorry, but I've already been selected for employment by another company, at which point they said, okay, if it doesn't work out, you can contact us again in December and we will happily continue with the interview process and potentially hire you. But it meant that I lost out on what was probably going to be a better job than even being rehired at the old company. The old company I had just wanted to keep working with because I did not want the, okay, why did you switch jobs so suddenly? Which, I mean, admittedly, people have said, yeah, that was kind of a dumb reason to try and stay with the old company because it's the pandemic. Lots of people have been switching jobs suddenly because they've been laid off, just like I was. So, yeah, they're probably right about that, but I knew that I was going to have my surgery, and I would have to be out of work for 2 weeks, and I thought that, there was a good chance I would be let go during that 2 weeks, since, of course, it wouldn't use my prior experience of having been there, or the time that I had already banked for the surgery, all those things that I had worked so hard to build up, and then got let go just before things were going to happen. So, I was trying to prevent having you worked here for like 2 months and then were gone again, and looking for work again. So what happened? Well, life happened, but, so instead there's the mortgage lending company, which seems like a very good prospect. Why am I doing this? This is the dumb way to do this. Hold on. Another prospect that it's a company that's pretty much always hiring because they have a very high turnover rate. Yes, I know I should be looking for jobs that don't have a high turnover rate, but, it's a job, and I could probably do it just fine. I'm not too worried about my ability to do the job. It's gonna be awful because, I will go from having been working with people who viewed me as a coworker to working with the general public who view me as a servant, because that's just the nature of working in a call center. Especially a call center where you're working with the general public. But that job, again, pretty much always hiring. I can definitely do it. I would earn commission based on convincing people to not only not cancel their service, but also to open up new lines of service, which that's not hard to do, as long as you are good at recognizing what people are looking for. I'm an excellent salesperson. I don't want to be. I don't like sales, but I know I'm good at it, so it is what it is. Okay, Pumpkin now has... Hold on. That was the wrong thing. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Pumpkin now has a stem. Nice short, fat little stem. And you can barely even see the stitches that sewed it on. Alright, that is our pumpkin done. Okay. So, pumpkin is done. Bone fairy is done. Gravestone is done. We have had a very productive month. And we've already done several of the drawings, but we have a few more to do. So that's what we're about to swap over to doing. Last time I was using a little table I have. Oh boy, the plant situation is kind of crazy. I had this brilliant idea, absolutely brilliant, of, hey, I have succulents, I have pots, I have some succulents that are growing a bit too vigorously. Why don't I go ahead and take these pots and do some cuttings of the succulents and give those as Christmas gifts, especially to people that I know who love plants as much as I do, but have not had that much success with, say, succulents they got at Walmart or, you know, the grocery store, wherever. My succulents that I'm doing cuttings from are all the ones that are vigorously thriving. In fact, one of them that I had not planned to do cuttings from, I ended up doing cuttings from last night, because when I was watering, I discovered that my stone crop was trying to eat or kill my goblin cactus. So I have many, many baby stone crops that I need to get in pots. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and after the doctor's appointment is done, I'm going to be trying to find pots, because I have, or maybe just potting the ones I have, because I have so many baby stone crops that all now need to be put into soil so they can stop trying to kill the goblin cactus and can just focus on growing themselves. Okay, so I'm going to move some things around. You can sit here. Alright, switching back over to the camera, I've already written down what I'm doing for each of the other drawings for the week, for the challenge, so I don't have to worry about those anymore. I've already got them written down, so I know exactly what I'm doing on them. Well, I'll figure out what I'm doing on them as I'm going. But I'm going to switch over to the camera, and we will pick up from there. I did do a few more drawings that I don't think you guys have seen on camera. Let me go ahead and just... Let me bring those pictures up in my photos again, because I went ahead and took pictures of everything because it made more sense. Okay. Alright. Let's go ahead and swap over to... That was the wrong camera. It's a day. It is a day. There we go. Next, done. Okay. So swapping over to the camera. Here is our shame crab vampire that we did that very first day. And here is our anglerfish robot we did on the second day. Or, well, you know, the second challenge. The wombat pumpkin. Not a good picture. There we go. The dodo mummy, which I apparently took 3 pictures of which one is unusable. This one was from a day that we did not show on camera. This is a pterodactyl princess. We've got our pterodactyl with a princess hat. Parrot scarecrow, which was another challenge that I did not do on stream. And let me double check. I want to make certain before I go. Yeah, that was the last one of those. Okay. So that's what we've done so far. Let me swap back here and switch over here and back to the camera. Next, done. Okay. So we'll go ahead and do the rest of the drawing challenges. Hopefully it's not going to press down on my keyboard too much, since I am using it right here on the keyboard. Probably not my wisest decision, but right now I don't care. So, this is the challenge for October 15th and 17th, through the 17th. Again, it's the Draw with Zoogration challenge. And this is an... I know I'm going to butcher this. I have seen how it's supposed to be pronounced. I've heard how it's supposed to be pronounced. But I haven't had enough experience pronouncing it myself. But I believe it is pronounced Chlodl Cat. In most English parlance, we say axolotl. But I believe that per someone who actually knows that language, because it is still a live language, I believe the name of the language is Nahuatl, but again, I might be mispronouncing, but they have said that no, it is actually Chlodl, or Chudl, I think. I'll have to go find it at some point and rewatch to try and pronounce it correctly. But anyway, if you come across a language that is a native language, an indigenous language, one that you do not speak yourself, and you come across somebody saying, hey, you guys have been pronouncing this wrong for ages, here's how we actually say it, please say it this way, do your best to learn to pronounce it. If we can learn to say words like dyslexia, or phrenologist, or hyperbole, and we can learn how to say them right, there's no reason we can't educate ourselves and learn how to say things in other languages correctly, especially if it is an indigenous language and it is dying out and they need the help of pronouncing things right as much as possible. It's why I'm learning Hawaiian. It's an indigenous language that is struggling. I know lots of people who are learning Gaelic, again, indigenous language that is struggling. Duolingo is the resource I'm using to learn Hawaiian. They also have Navajo as an option. Sadly, they do not have the Native American, Indigenous American language that I really want to learn, which is Osage. But I found a online learning class through the Osage tribe in my area, and I'm trying to learn that as well. They're having some computer issues right now that are making it difficult. Anyhow, let's go on, and I can talk about this while drawing. No, I can't, because I'm going to be talking about the drawing as I do it. So, Little Cat. I keep kind of vacillating between, do I want to draw a cat with the traditional frill fins, gills actually, I think is what they are, but do I want to draw that, or do I want to draw a turtle with cat ears and maybe a cat tail? I think I'm going to go with the turtle, because honestly, they are just too cute with their tiny little eyes, the itty-bitty nostril slits, the surprisingly wide mouth for a salamander that almost always looks like it's smiling. They are a species of salamander, or a relative of, I want to say. Let's see, we're going to go ahead. Oh, these things are so intricate and so delicate, and I am so worried that I'm going to just ruin the drawing of them. But I'm going to try at least, so. The fun thing is you can actually draw these using the same technique that I was taught as a kid for drawing tree branches. which is you draw a straight line and then you draw a V above it, and you just kind of keep V'ing out until you reach what you decide is the end. So, you know, it would probably be easier if I would actually look up a reference, but of course I'm not going to because I'm stubborn and stupid sometimes. This is not going to be the best, but oh well. It's recognizable. That's the point. I never said I was a good artist. I have never made that claim. I can make a few things well, and some things decently, but more often than not, I just kind of putter around with pencil and paper and make whatever I make. The good thing is, there's no right or wrong way to draw. You just kind of do what you want. It's probably the best thing that I ever learned from watching a lot of Bob Ross when I was younger. Because of course I did. Who didn't love the nice, calm guy? Oh, thank you so much, Calguru. But who didn't love the nice, calm guy talking to you and telling you about how you couldn't really make a mistake if you were trying to be creative, except to stop, to give up. If you did something that you had not anticipated it doing, and you didn't quite like how it looked, you could change it, you could fix it, and it was still your creation. And the very fact that you were bringing something new into the world, something that hadn't existed before, was in and of itself an excellent thing to do, an excellent way to use your time. And I still believe to this day, we don't make mistakes, we just have happy accidents. There are a lot of people, much like Bob Ross out today, who I highly recommend. I know that I've mentioned Zero and Catherine Reynolds before, who are creators. Catherine mostly does writing, and also some yarn crafting. Zero, he just makes so much amazing, intricate stuff. His current project that I've been spotting on Twitter is he's working on what appears to be a house out of foam crafting materials. And, oh my goodness, these things. They're just so round and dopey, honestly. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, certain words can hurt. We should always be very careful what words we use, because you never know who might be harmed by that word. So I should probably not use that particular word for these. But I just, they look cheerful and friendly. And the ones that are in the pet trade, which, by the way, if you are going to get one, please make certain that you get one from a reputable breeder. There are wild ones of these, but they are few in number. We do not want to take any that are wild caught. Okay, so I think that instead of having it actually have the ears attached to our little creature's head, we are going to give them a headband that they are wearing because I think it's far cuter to have a little kitty ear headband on our Xlotl. I swear one of these days I'm going to pronounce it right, but today is apparently not that day. Anyhow, now it has a cute little headband it's wearing, and here towards the back we'll give it little chubby legs. I have not been looking up references, which if you've seen me draw before, you know normally I do. And I highly recommend it. Every artist I know that does a lot of art says, oh, I absolutely use references. There's no shame in using references. How else are you going to learn if you don't look and see how things are actually created? Okay, so we're going to, between those legs, give our nice chunky tail with the wider fins on it. Okay. Not my best, but I like it. It's very cute. And, you know, the whole point of this drawing challenge seems to be primarily cute. Okay. This one's going to be fun, because our next challenge is a beluga whale skeleton. Now, here's my question. Do I want to do this as close to scientifically accurate as I can, or do I want to continue with the let's do it cute? Because beluga whales, especially whales in general, but especially beluga whales, have absolutely horrifying skeletons. Because you can still see where they had hind legs. And inside the flippers, you can still see where they had fingers. Because the whales we have today didn't evolve as didn't evolve from aquatic animals. They evolved from ungulates, I believe. They evolved from a hoofed, four-legged, a hoofed quadrupedal mammal that at some point went back into the water after millennia on shore, on Earth, ground. So, things like fingers, they still have them hidden away inside those flippers. And belugas, well, they're kind of horrifying, because if you get them right, in the right position, let's see if I can find a good picture to show. Yeah. It's very odd. Why on earth would that picture... Okay, we're going to choose a different one then. Because that's a very odd place for that. Okay, so this is a... This is a stock image, but I'm going to swap over to it just to show you guys what I mean. You can see the knees, right? well, you probably can't see my mouse moving, but yeah, visible knees in beluga whales. It is quite the trip. Okay, swapping back to the camera. Okay. That said, how do I want to do this? I'm just trying to figure out, do I want to do cartoony or do I want to do what they actually look like? Which is a difficult question. Those knees, by the way, are free-floating. They're not, as far as we can tell, inside the beluga whale, they are not attached to any other bones. Like our skeletons as humans, pretty much all of our bones are attached to others with cartilage or something similar. I think the only free-floating bone we have is the patella, the kneecap. I think. But I might be wrong. Do not ever quote me for certain. Anything I say that you're not certain, that doesn't sound right, or even if you're just like, ooh, that sounds interesting, I should look into that, feel free to look it up. I will not be bothered in the least by somebody fact-checking me. Okay. Nope, that won't oh, that's not even a beluga, that's some species of dinosaur. Okay. Okay, so I think what we're going to end up doing is we're just going to draw a beluga with a kind of cartoony skeleton over it. So, let me just pull up a reference just to make certain that I do it. Belugas are like adorable and yet terrifying at the same time. So many animals are like that. Just really, they're very cute, and then they're also horrifying. Like baby birds. Baby birds, generally adorable, horrifically prone to fratricide. They murder their siblings because for the birds, it is generally better that the females, or it's better for the parents to lay a whole bunch of eggs and then only feed the strongest, because those have the best chance of surviving. And so the baby chicks will murder one another until only the strongest ones are surviving in the nest. So those ones that were strong enough to kill their siblings, they get more, here we go, there's a good picture. Sorry, I've been looking for a picture this whole time I've been chatting. Okay, they get more resources and have a better chance of living while their siblings end up dead. There are even species of birds that take advantage of this, such as the cuckoo, and will lay their egg in another species' nest, and then the cuckoo egg hatches first and destroys the other eggs, so the parent birds end up raising the cuckoo chick, and only the cuckoo chick, because all of her chicks were killed. And it's parasitic something or other. I can't remember the exact name, but it's something that cuckoos they develop to do it. They don't lay their own eggs in their own nest. They don't anymore. They just lay them in other birds' nests. Anyhow, okay, so belugas have a it's more More like that muzzle. And then their head actually... Oh, you guys can't see what I'm talking about when I... Okay. You'll see in a few, I promise. So, that's more like a beluga muzzle. Their mouth also goes far back. But they've got this line where their head lumps up. And then the eye is fairly far back on the head compared to the rest of the whale. And the jaw connects to the neck fairly far back as well. Now the head kind of humps up to connect to the neck. And then, hold on, swapping back to this. Okay. This drawing is at a really weird angle, so it does not make it easier. Or the picture I'm using for reference. They have really kind of short flippers for as large as they are. And you think beluga, you don't think big, honestly. Most of us don't, because when we're thinking big whale, we're thinking like a blue whale or a sperm whale or you know, these really big species. But a beluga is, compared, say, to a human, a very impressively sized specimen. The tail, they have a split fluke. And it does the inward and then a little bit out again curve. Now, because of the angle we're working with, we won't see... No, we wouldn't see the whole of it, but... Okay. Oh, look, I gave it knees after all. Whee! I swear the knees on a beluga are horrifying. Okay, so this would be the underbelly. And sorry, folks, I am not including the ventral slit. No. As it was, I had to explain to my kids the term red rocket earlier today, and that, no, it does not actually mean dick in general. It's a very specific male dog dick, but they were very stunned that I had overheard their conversation, but they keep forgetting that they're loud and I have good ears. Okay, now for the skeleton. Oh, and before I forget... Well, that almost makes it look adorable. I know better. Right, that eye needs to be changed, though. So I need to... Like... Are they cute? Yes. Are they still horrifying giant cetaceans that would happily murder me if I was in the water with them? Also, yes. And I know you hear all the stories about, oh, this beluga saved, you know, saved this drowning person. Yes, a lot of cetaceans will do that. But it's not out of some altruism. It's they're trying to play with the human, or they're just like... They're just doing it because animals do things. It's not out of a intrinsic altruism of the beluga or anything like that. No. Okay, so let's now... And I'm sorry if I'm ruining anything for people by sharing facts. It's just, you know, you've got to respect your animals. And far too many people watch things like the dodo or other videos where they show humans interacting with wild animals that they really shouldn't be interacting with. And people get the wrong idea. They get the idea that, oh, I saw this video of these people who have a raccoon in their house. I want a raccoon. No, you don't. You think you do because you saw a video that looked cute, but those people in the video were putting themselves in horrific danger. For one, raccoons carry a parasite in their that they drop in their feces, that parasite, if it infects a human, is prone to going up through the human's body into their eyes and breeding in the eye, okay? It will drive you blind, plus you'll have an eye full of worms. So no, don't. If you see raccoons, leave them alone. If you come across a spot that is just a pile of poop, because raccoons prefer to always poop in the same spot, if you come across one, wear gloves if you're going to clean it up, and make certain you clean your clothes and yourself really, really well, and also just bleach that area when you're done. Like, seriously, after you're done cleaning, don't care if it's outside, bleach it. Okay, anyway. So, there's a good skeleton. Okay. I wonder how many people come on these videos and they're like, oh, cute animal drawing, and then they find out these horrifying facts. Okay. By the way, speaking of horrifying, the skull of the beluga whale looks like a hell demon. It is not nearly as cute as you might think. It's got a fairly small actual ridge, massive orbital socket though. And then we have our spine, which is just basically a series of vertebrae that, by the way, look spiky. Yeah, all that cute round face, yeah, it's a lie. Beluga has sharp face with big teeth. Those are supposed to be sharp. They don't look it, but they are. Big, sharp teeth. Just erase this real quick. And okay. This is probably going to be the skeleton, the picture that takes me the longest, just because I have to draw all the tiny vertebrae. Well, tiny is relative. Compared to a human, these vertebrae are massive. Compared to a blue whale, they'd be tiny, but, you know. Mostly I'm looking at the fact there's just so many of them. But yeah, all of these rounded features, that's muscle and fat. Because, of course, belugas, yeah, they're fat. There is nothing wrong with being fat. There really isn't. As long as you are comfortable in your body, taking care of your body, then do not let someone say, oh, you're too fat. Can you do everything you need to do? Yeah? Okay, good. You're fine. Do you feel comfortable with the weight you are? You do? Great. You're good. Even doctors have a tendency towards what is referred to as medical fat phobia. Don't let them do it to you. If you come to them and say, hey, I'm experiencing this, and they say, oh, it's because you're too fat, find a new doctor. Seriously. Because they should at least be looking for other potential causes before they automatically go, oh, you're too fat. You can even, and this is something most people don't realize, you can ask your doctor, okay, if I were skinny, what would you be doing? And insist that they do the same tests on you that they would on someone who's skinny, even if they are absolutely certain that the whole issue is you're fat. And if they refuse, if they say, no, you need to lose weight first, you can say, okay, document in my medical records that you're refusing to do this test. A lot of them will change their mind about that real fast. If they don't, find a new doctor. I am very lucky. I have an excellent doctor who, what she does is she looks at my blood work, she looks at my heart rate, she checks my pulse anytime I come in, and she asks, are you in any pain? And a lot of times I say, yeah, but it's the exact same pain I've had for X amount of years. And that pain, we know, is not due to, well, it is due to fat, but it's not due to fat on my, on my everything. It is pretty much entirely fat on my chest that causes severe back pain for me. And that, well, we'll get that taken care of next month. Okay, so we've got our spine. Yay! Now we need to do ribs. And the ribs for them start with the collarbone, which goes out and then rounds down all the way into their sternum, where it connects to the sternum, which goes back a ways. So every rib from here on will be connecting to that sternum until we reach the end of the rib cage. No, that's not true. It goes a little deeper than what I have. So, a moment here. Yeah, it goes to right about before the arms, so, okay. And they all do this kind of funky twist, at least up to that point. I'll do one more. Okay. Now we've got a few more, but first we're going to put in, see this hump up here? A big part of that is what I'm drawing right here. Nope, drew it wrong. Sorry, the drawing, oh, well, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, so this curves in and then sharply back out, where it has a small, this goes to right about, and there we go. That's our shoulder blade. Well, their shoulder blade. Okay, now, right here, we have a bone that comes off, which is surprisingly, well, it's short comparative to, but that would be the equivalent of this bone here in a human. And then they have another bone, which again, comparatively short. And that would be a fused radius and ulna. They don't have two separate ones. It's fused together. And then we have the what in a human would be the carpals and the tarsals. One of my neighbors today, I was chatting with him about the COVID vaccine, and he explaining how it works and why, yes, you should get it, and how it's different than previously done vaccines. And he's like, how do you know all this stuff? And I was like, well, I was a biochem major in college, so, this up until I discovered that I can't do organic or inorganic chemistry, but can do organic chemistry just fine, even though supposedly that's the harder one. Go figure. Anyhow, but okay. So, creepy little hand. Okay, so the rest of this is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7. So there's 3 more ribs that go down this way. They're kind of going to disappear behind that arm. And then behind those 3, there's another 3 that are... they're not actually free-floating. We think of them that way a lot because for a human, they don't float free, but they also don't connect to the sternum inside. So they kind of, well, they sort of do. Kind of. Anyhow. The human skeleton... The bodies are weird, okay? That's the best way to sum it all up, is bodies are weird. Okay. We now have... There it is, okay. Skeletal beluga whale. Or beluga whale and skeleton. And I didn't add the knees because, well, they're there, but I don't want to draw them. Okay. So, next. Beaver, devil, or angel? Now, for me, yes, I know what a beaver looks like, but I'm still going to look up reference images, because why not? Okay, beaver images. For one, beavers are just cute. Who doesn't want to look at pictures of beavers? With their little almost human-like hands and their horrifying teeth that grow their entire lives unless they do something to stop it. Well, they chew on things, so they don't stop the teeth from growing, but they chew on things to help wear those teeth down, and of course, they use the chewed-on wood to build their home. They also eat wood. They mostly eat the young green growth on wood, okay? Or they eat on the roots. They don't eat the, like, you will see cartoons and stuff where they're, like, putting on a napkin before walking up to a big, tall tree and chowing down on it. That's not what they're doing. When they're chewing on those trees, it's generally to work on their dam. It's not them actually eating it. looking at all of these pictures, and I'm not finding one that's at a good angle for what I want. Let's see. Anyway, we're gonna go with one beaver attack. Yes, they will attack you. They do not enjoy being harassed. Most animals don't. What a surprise. Okay, so beavers. They're kind of a lump. I mean, it's just what they are. So, we're going to go with... We're going to do a picture of one from behind. Not fully behind. It'll be turning back towards us. But I'm doing it this way because I'm going to do a devil beaver, as it were. And I want to show this big, round tail that our enterprising beaver has drawn a demon spade tail onto their regular wide flat tail. Okay, so now beavers have massive jaws because of the amount of chewing they do. So, definitely including that. They are not a streamlined animal. I mean, they are. They are very streamlined for what they do, which is primarily aquatic life. We joke they're not streamlined because they're not streamlined for life on land. They are very good at their life in a largely aquatic environment. It's why they have webbed feet with sharp toes, because those claws they use to defend themselves. It looks like I overestimated just how many toes they had. I thought they had 4. They have 4 fingers, but it looks like on the foot they actually only have the 3 toes. So it's kind of like a lot of people, they underestimate the fact that rabbits are not harmless. Okay. Now, along with those toes, because of the way that their feet are webbed, you can actually see the bones underneath the skin all the way back for a good ways. Okay. So this beaver's kind of looking back at us, probably very quizzically wondering what we are doing in its turf. Beavers are not friendly. If you harass a beaver, you will come to regret that. You can just, if you want, check online and you will find plenty of stories of people who made the mistake of harassing some beaver that was just going about their business and definitely regretted it. Beavers have and can bite humans and will if the human is bothering them enough. They have sharp claws on those feet. Just because to us they look cute and friendly, most certainly doesn't mean that they necessarily are. Beavers do have four fingers, as it were, on their paw. So we're going to draw our beaver. It's not quite like a human hand, but it is definitely a hand that is capable of grasping and holding things. And in this case, because our little beaver here is a devil, he will be holding a barbed pitchfork. Let's give him now, something that a lot of people don't realize is that beavers do have visible ears on their heads. It's just most people never notice them because they're very small relative to the size of the beaver. So, okay. Their head doesn't quite... No, it's not quite flat, but it's streamlined. Beavers are streamlined. They're streamlined for life in the water. Okay. Let's see. We've got our nice pudgy beaver with his thick tail that he uses for life in the water. He is obviously painted. I'm just realizing I put the tail in the wrong spot. So we're going to have to undo this whole thing, including our drawing that he did on his tail. Okay, let's try this again. So, foot is going to lead back to there. Tail will actually be further back. Let's see. In fact, it won't show that high up. There we go. Our enterprising beaver obviously got a hold of some paints and sketched on his tail. Probably would have done a better job if I were a beaver drawing on my own tail than I seem to be doing on drawing this beaver's tail. Okay. Close enough. Okay, now, of course, you can't have a devil without the devil's horns. behind. Okay. There we go. Our Devil Beaver. Which I'm sure anyone who has gotten on the bad side of a beaver would describe them that way. Alright. Oh, an alligator superhero. That's our next one. Okay, so. I don't think I'm going to draw the full one. I think I'm just going to draw the alligator's head. Because, I mean, alligators, they lay flat on their belly. It makes it a bit difficult to... Hold on. I'm grabbing a handful of candy before I lose out on my chance at it. Because, you know, I do my diet and I only have so many days of the week that I can eat non-diet food. That should be coming to an end soon, thank goodness. I am gonna look into whether or not I want to continue the diet after I've had my top surgery. Still haven't decided yet, but we'll see. For the moment, though, let's draw us an alligator superhero. So alligators have the scales, which are easier to draw, by the way. A friend of mine taught me a trick. You just draw a bunch of boxes. And you don't quite connect those boxes to each other. Now I have to look. Are alligators the ones that have the rounded nose or the flat one? I just don't want to accidentally draw a crocodile if I'm trying to draw an alligator. Okay. Oh, that's handy. Oh, never mind. That's comparing the leather you get from them. Okay. So alligators have the rounder muzzle, the fatter muzzle. That's what I thought. Okay. Hey, that is a perfect profile image of an alligator, and it is from a... It is actually from my local zoo, which, that's great. I love it. Okay. So, let's see. Now, the one thing with alligators, and I guess probably crocodiles too, is they have one powerful jaw. So we're going to go and draw that hefty, and I do mean hefty, lower jaw. And it makes sense, you know, for it to be so powerful, because that is, well, it's how they get their meals, you know? The upper jaw comes out a tiny bit further and is really pretty flat for the most part. It pretty much goes up a small amount where the eyes are. So that'll be the eye on the other side of the head, and then it comes sharply back down and just finishes out. Okay, so this eye is going to be just a small amount further back. And a lot of people don't realize it, but they have a really, really expressive face when you look at it. And I mean, people are like, what? What do you mean expressive? It's a crocodile. It's a reptile. How can it have an expressive face? And they just do. Like, I've seen enough crocodiles and alligators that you can tell when they're looking at you. You know. And they're sizing you up, and you can tell that they are looking at you and going, worth the effort or skip? And I mean, if I were worth the effort, then I'd be in trouble. So right here we have, now their teeth, they're sharp, don't get me wrong, they're sharp, but they don't look sharp compared to, say, looking at a cat tooth. You know, a cat tooth, you look at that and you go, that thing would make a nice little puncture in me, wouldn't it now? Their teeth are sharp, but they almost don't look sharp. They almost look like they're soft, because they've got a more rounded edge to them. The thing is, it's not the teeth you should worry about with crocodiles and alligators. Yeah, those teeth, they'll take an arm off, you know, but it's more the pressure of the bite, just how powerful those jaws are. That's the real danger with them. Because they have one of the strongest bite forces known. I mean, big alligators will take down hippos. They eat them as just par for the course of their meal if they're a big enough alligator, because the bigger they are, the harder it is for them to use the full bite force, because it's so much effort. And honestly, with the really big ones, like the massive saltwaterers, and, you know, now that's crocodile, remember, but the massive, like, saltwater crocs and stuff, they'll take to eating things like humans and hippos, because they need much bigger prey to keep up with the sheer size of their jaw. Because if they don't eat something that is huge, they actually will, they have to grow, their skull shape changes as they get bigger, because they have to have a more dense bone in the skull. I was actually reading about this just yesterday, so that's why I'm sharing it with y'all today. But they literally changed the shape of they changed the way that their skull is built. They replace whole parts of it with bone that were initially like muscle or even open space. And they do that because they would literally break their own skull with how hard they bite down. So they go after bigger prey that will keep them fed longer. So that they don't have to bite down on things as often. Also, I'm using some artistic license here. The scales on their heads are really not as distinct. They're there, but they're more interconnected. These kind of scales you'll see further back on the body. But again, artistic license, it looks good. Okay, so. Now, got our bases. And we're gonna... They have a nice dangly underjaw, but the jaw itself is actually more like this, and this is the underside of their jaw. So, okay, or I guess it'd be the lower soft palate on them. Okay, so now we've got the alligator part. Now, to turn it into a superhero, what we're going to do, what's one of the most iconic things on most superheroes? The mask, right? You know, got to protect your secret identity. So, and of course, the traditional hero mask is the Domino Mask. So, thin slip of fabric there. Up and around the eyes. And then we're going to have to go pretty far back with this because that head goes pretty far. But there's the trailing ends. Excuse me. That was not expected. Okay. We're going to just clean up a few little bits. But we now have an alligator superhero. Like I said, not quite as fancy as initially intended, but it'll do. Okay, so we have 3 drawings to go. And I'm not sure I'm going to finish them in the next 10 minutes. But let's at least try to get one more done, and then I'll try to finish the last 2. Also, this stream's gone longer than probably any other stream I've done. We're at almost 2 hours now, like an hour and a half. Well, no, I think I've done a 2-hour stream before. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so this one's going to be an Armadillo Witch. Which means I want to find a picture of an armadillo sitting upright, because they can and will do that. You guys are just getting to see me use the touchpad. There we go. There's a good one. Okay. Armadillo. Should I just make this a fun facts about animals while drawing page? That seems to be what I'm doing so far. Fun fact. How fun are their facts when if it's, hey, this'll murder you. That's always fun, right? Okay. Armadillos are bean-shaped when you actually look at their armor. They have tail. Little haunches. Here we actually see the belly, the underside of the other half of the scales, little arms. And I just realized that this is going to be big enough, it's going to make it really hard to see the witch's cauldron. I was going to give it... Also, armadillos have hellacious claws, just so you know. Because they're digging animals. It's what they do. They eat insects, and they dig those insects out of the ground. We're just going to give our armadillo a fairly small cauldron. Smaldron? Maybe? I don't know. We're going to use a small cauldron, mostly because I didn't leave enough room for a bigger one. And then we'll have some flames licking up around the base of the cauldron. Haven't even drawn the head yet, but I'll get there. Okay. They have the most adorable, massive ears for such a small animal. And they have a little piggy-looking snout. And teeny tiny eyes. Their eyes don't need to be big because they spend a lot of their time underground and they don't want big eyes. Big eyes would be really hard to keep dirt out of. So, no big eyes for your armadillos. They don't want them, they don't need them. They spend a lot of time with their eyes closed anyway. Dadgummit. That hat looks awful. I'm gonna fix that. That looks more like a possum's mouth, but oh well. It's fine. Hold on just a second. Possums, by the way, almost always look like they're smiling. Unless, of course, they're hissing at you, but otherwise they look very cheerful. These bands that I'm drawing are actually one of the hallmarks of an armadillo. A lot of them, a lot of the different species are named based on the number of bands they have. Otherwise, they have skin that looks very much like scales. And it's because it's armored, basically. It is scales, effectively. They still have hair, and they still bear live young and feed them milk. So they're mammals. They just have the kind of skin that if you had that skin, somebody would be going, you need to go see a dermatologist. And it's just the way they are. But yeah, here in Oklahoma, armadillos, a lot of people have never seen one live, but you sure see a bunch of them dead along the roadside, because their primary defense tactic when faced with a predator is they hunch up, and they do so quickly that they literally pop up off the ground, which, if you're trying to scare a predator, bouncing up off the ground is a great way to do it. They're not going to expect it, especially if they get hit with that very hard shell, which, again, not really a shell in the normal sense, but a hardened skin that is very hard. These are actually more flexible, and they are how it folds like that. But again, they do so quickly that they pop up into the air, which is great if you're facing off against a coyote or a black bear, which are fairly easily startled, but not so useful if you're facing off against a Chevy or a Ford. So they, a lot of times, fall victim to vehicles, because what they know to be the best defense mechanism really just slams their backs against the undercarriage of a vehicle, and they're made for defending themselves against, soft, fleshy animals, not a Ford F-150 or a Dodge Ram. The metal undercarriage basically just smashes them, and so you'll see a lot of them dead. I've seen them live, but that's because I grew up out in the country on a farm, and you'd find them occasionally digging around in the garden, or you might spot one trundling along through the woods if you were like me and spent a lot of time out in the woods being completely unsupervised, because of course I was. I mean, not that my parents, just let me run willy-nilly, but we had 20 acres. What was the good of keeping me stuck in the house? So, let's see. I'm going to spend so much time just drawing the skin texture. There needs to be a quicker way to do all of these. I'm sure there is, and I just don't know it. But either way, I don't know how much you guys want to keep watching this, so I might... tell you what, 14 more minutes. I'll end the stream at 2 hours. That's a good long stream, especially for me. And we'll get as far as we get. If I have time to draw the other 2 drawings, great. If I don't, oh well. I'll finish them up tonight and just show them off later. The bands, by the way, continue on the tail. However, it's, again, scales. Or the equivalent of. So, technically I should be drawing these on the bands too, but I'm not gonna. A man has to draw the line somewhere, right? Especially when his hand starts hurting. Oh. I'll show these off to my buddy who lives in Texas. Texas, you'll actually see armadillos more than you'll see even in Oklahoma. Because it stays warmer, so the ground stays softer, and it's a lot easier. Plus, they've got, like, massive ant and termite hills, and that's what these guys eat. They love them some ants and termites. In fact, if you have a house or a well house or something, and you notice you're seeing an awful lot of armadillos poking around, it's a good idea to check and see if you've got termites in that house or in the wood of the shed, because they'll find them. Those claws are for digging into the nests of termites, and of course digging underground, because like I said, they live in dens that they dig out. They're not like moles who they go underground and they pretty much live all the time underground, and they eat worms and grubs and things like that. These guys, they live in underground dens, but they go around and they find ant hills and termite mounds, and they use those sharp claws to just shred the mounds. It's kind of the same reason if you've ever seen pictures of like one of those giant anteaters in Africa. Why they, you'd think big, floofy animal, why does it have these massive claws? It's because it eats ants and termites, and sometimes you just have to rip that nest open. There is, like, a lot of the reason why these guys have the scale-like skin is actually to protect against the ant and termite bites. The hard back is, that one's to protect against predators, but the skin on their legs and paws and face is also scaled, and it is because, again, you don't want those ants to find soft tissue they can chomp down on, because it hurts. I've been bitten by ants enough to know that for sure. Growing up on a farm, it's kind of par for the course. You manage to get into just about any small way to find pain. You'll find yourself a wasp nest and bop into it on accident, or a beehive, or ant mound, termite. Termites aren't as bad about biting, but they also they destroy houses more than, like, ants do. So the scales on the face of the why did I try to call it a porcupine? Of the armadillo are actually bigger than the scales elsewhere because they don't need them quite as much. Still need them to protect against ants, but with their face, they're far more likely to be slapping that tongue out. Oh, I forgot to mention, they've got a long, skinny tongue, and they use it to just blip, 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 lick up ants. And so if the ants are on their face, they just use that tongue to slap out and grab them. And hey, I've got a nice snack there. But if they're on their paws, they're needing those paws to be digging into the ant nest, and so those paws are the first thing that the ants come across, and they're what is far more likely to get bitten down on. Or, you know, depending on the type of ant, sprayed. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, I thought so. 9-banded armadillo. That's exactly what I was drawing. But they're far more likely to get sprayed with formic acid, get bit, and so the scales are smaller on the hands and the feet as a way to protect those better. Because, you know, yeah, they could lick the ants off of them, but there's a good chance that they'll have enough ants that they're going to do some damage before... Sorry, my hand hurts. Before they can get licked off. So better to have more protection in the areas that get more ant bites. Okay. Okay. We can do this. We can finish it. I'm apparently a masochist. Let's see. What are some other fun things about armadillos? The song Rockin' the Casbah by... oh, hell. Duran Duran, I think. They actually had an armadillo in the video, and they filmed in Texas. And apparently most of the people who were extras in the video were super excited because they'd never seen a live armadillo. So the armadillo that was brought in by the production crew got lots of attention. It was one of the... There are people who... their job is to take care of animals that are going to be used in TV, movies, music videos, etc. And so they generally will not try to wild catch it. They'll try to breed their own in captivity. Because, of course, it's important that there are still wild populations of that animal. So, you know, they'll try to breed their own in captivity. Some of them will even, you know, breed their own in captivity and then provide semen or eggs to zoos so that they can help with conservation efforts. Zoos are amazing for conservation because they can captive breed animals and then raise them in such a way. If you're ever interested in seeing this, go look up condor puppets, because the zoos will use special methods, such as in the case of the California condor, puppets to resemble as much as possible the actual parents, and they will use those puppets when feeding the young condors or whatever bird. I've seen some with egrets. I've seen owls that are raised that way. I've seen, because they don't want that animal to associate humans with food. They want that animal to grow up. Pandas, panda keepers in zoos, they will often wear a costume that makes them look like a panda as they are handling feeding and stuff, if the panda cubs are meant for later release into the wild. But they'll use those puppets to do their best to train the young animal in the skills that it will need in the wild, so that later they can release those animals that have different DNA than what is in the wild populations, to help and prevent genetic bottlenecks. Because one of the fastest ways that species die out, aside from humans destroying their habitat, is through genetic bottlenecks, because humans killed off so many of them that now, if a species goes below 100 specimens in an area, then they're almost guaranteed not to recover without drastic intervention, because if that drastic intervention doesn't happen, a genetic bottleneck happens and they become so inbred that they develop a lot of health issues, a lot of things that are detrimental to the species. Cheetahs are very close to that point. And this is why zoos are so important, because the animals that are in zoos are safe, they're protected, nobody's going to shoot them, nobody's going to destroy their habitat. They've got their habitat there in the zoo, and their semen, eggs, can be used to try and resolve the genetic bottleneck issues. You know, if you've got 100 zoos and they each have 2 cheetahs, you can send semen from a zoo in Oklahoma to a zoo in California, and you can inseminate the female cheetahs with the semen from the Oklahoma cheetahs, and you can send semen from the California cheetah to New York and inseminate a female cheetah in New York with that semen. And so you are increasing genetic diversity, and then the cubs that are born, they can either be used to also increase genetic diversity, or if you've got a zoo that has the ability to do it, which some of them don't, I'll admit, but the zoos that can raise cheetah cubs in such a way that they can be released to the wild eventually, can then send those cubs to a reserve in Africa, and those cubs can be, well, once they're grown up enough that they safely can be, they can then be released in Africa to use with the wild population. I believe that they're even saving semen from zoos in the US and shipping that semen overseas, and then darting female cheetahs and inseminating them with that semen to increase the chances of the population recovering. You know, a lot of the issues with population loss is due to human intervention. It's due to humans shooting them. It's due to humans taking away their habitat. It's due to humans killing off their prey species. All of these things that result in habitat loss, or the loss of a population in the wild. So it is imperative that humans do what we can to fix our own mistakes. Okay, we are at 2 hours now. We have 2 drawings left to do, the Bison Werewolf and the Kangaroo Dragon. I will do those later tonight, but I'm going to end the stream here. I think we had a... That was not what I wanted. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, there we go. I think we've had a really creative month. We've gotten a lot done. Again, we made our pumpkin, which we finished tonight. We made our Bone Fairy, which we finished, and, you know, that was finished a while back. We made the air dry grave and tombstone, which has been finished. Thank you, Cloud Hopping, for joining me. We've done our drawings. We did the pumpkins that we carved as jack-o'-lanterns and then had to recarve because, well, apparently pumpkins don't last as long as they used to. Probably because it's been so humid and muggy and rainy here. We didn't even put the pumpkins outside. We had them inside the whole time to protect them from the rain. Didn't do any good. Alright, but I do want to thank everyone who made it out tonight. Hopefully people learned some things about conservation, beluga skeletons, go figure, about how, as much as possible, if it's a wild animal, we should leave it to be wild. Don't capture wild animals and try to tame them. It's safer for them to be left in the wild. If you see one that's in danger, if it's in immediate danger, there's no way that it will survive the next 5-10 minutes. Okay, you can take action, but do your best to protect yourself and to protect the animal. Otherwise, contact your local wildlife control and say, hey, this animal is in an area where it is going to potentially be hurt. Give them the address or the area and say, we need them relocated, something like that. If you have raccoons in your attic or, you know, squirrels in your attic, whatever, instead of putting out poisons and baits and poisons that it, say a squirrel eats some poison and then happens to go outside, gets nabbed by a hawk. That hawk is now going to die because it ate the poison squirrel. It's much better to find a local business that will trap and relocate than it is to put out poisons, because you don't know what animal further up the food chain is going to also ingest that poison and die. So again, leave the wild to be wild as much as possible. Support your local zoos and conservation efforts. Protect yourselves. Protect each other. Be safe. And I'll see you next time.